Okay, this is a another breakdown. These are two students of Val. I believe, Chris on the right here. He's a blue belt, and I believe Graham recently just got his blue belt. This will be interesting because, well, it's always interesting to watch two blue belts kind of go at it. They're certainly not beginners anymore, so it's a basic foundation, a basic understanding of jiu-jitsu. I always look at purple belt as kind of like the more as the first advanced belt. But I mean, that being said, certainly there's a lot of blue belts that are really more like black belts. So that does happen too. So let's check it out. Let's start here. All right. So hand fighting in the beginning, 2-on-1. I like this 2-on-1. Chris is establishing connection with his feet, with his hands. This is good. You always want to have 4 points of contact, 4 points of connection as soon as you can when you're playing your guard. It just gives you more possibilities of control and attacking. So just always remember your guard is an attacking position, not a defensive position. Okay, so he's trying to play like a little reverse X with his legs here. If you look at the configuration of his legs right here, this is what we kind of call a kind of like a reverse X position. It's a shallow reverse X, but it's anticipating someone driving forward really fast. And when somebody does, you can slide your feet. His left foot right here will slide up high and start to capture the knee line. So this will be useful if Graham actually starts to get more aggressive. Okay, Graham's doing a good job of trying to control the feet. He has to be very careful here, just kind of standing, especially at this angle that they're at right now. I can already see kind of where this is going. He's okay as long as Graham keeps his hand in this area. He can kind of block this leg right here. Chris's leg is gonna try to probably come up over here and reap his leg. This is pretty common at Val. We do a lot of drills with the same side honey hole entry from our opponent standing, also from a seated or combat base opponent. So I just can tell usually when somebody's going to try to go for this just based off the angle. But yeah, he may not. I don't know. There you go. So he went for the position. He swung the leg to the outside, which is actually really good, kind of capturing the arm. Graham's arm is in the way. But in Graham, this isn't the end of the world. Graham could just kind of push the leg down. If he's his right hand here should start to push Chris's leg down here. If he doesn't, he's going to get swept and he's going to fall to the ground, especially if Chris starts to open up in this direction. Okay, so let's see what happens. Boom. So he captured the knee line. The knee line is the difference between this knee and Chris's knee here. Graham's knee and Chris's knee. This is the further they are apart, with Chris's knee being on the chest, the more control and the more of a chance that Chris is actually going to capture a heel hook. So let's see. Graham turns here. I'm not a big fan of turning in this position. I know a lot of guys do this. It's okay that he turned because Chris doesn't have a hold of a grip on the foot here. He has the toes aren't trapped basically. So if Graham's toes here were trapped in Chris's armpit, this is not advisable. I would not. Actually, I encourage people never to spin. If you're not really familiar with leg locks, in general, as a rule, when we start doing positional sparring with legs, I always tell people if you're not familiar, you don't know your opponent very well or your partner well, just to not do any spinning. Because for example, if Graham's leg was caught here, or if his toe was in Chris's armpit, he could break his own leg. So, but he's okay right here, which is probably why I try to opt to spin. If he's going to try to spin, he's going to try to free that knee line, which is reasonable. He's trying to get this knee here and trying to get it out. And he can use his other foot here to kind of push off and brace off Chris's leg to kind of go into more of a running man escape. So not the end of the world here, but Chris can certainly start to follow him around and kind of follow. So let's see what happens. Okay, so this is good. Graham switched position, switched the angle, and now the heel hook he's out of the woodwork for the heel hook, the initial heel hook. Chris trying to redig the heel. Graham freed his knee, so it's good. Wrestles up, which is a good option. He could get back to a leg here, or he could continue to wrestle. I would always encourage people, once you have that leg, just to continue wrestling forward and get to top position. In general, this is a good idea. Leg locks and wrestling, believe it or not, go very well together. If I can grab your leg and actually stand up, then I have your leg. So it's going to be very difficult for you to try to take me down or try to obtain some sort of guard. So this is good. So he stands up. They both stand up. He has his leg, and as you see, it doesn't matter. He stood up from a leg lock. He has the leg. Graham stood up with him, and it's an easy sweep. Just utilizing the leg locks, wrestling very well together to get on top. Okay, Graham's doing good here, controlling posture. I'd like to see more connection. Graham to have his feet and his hands connected. Really, right now, all he has is this one hand right here connected because Chris is controlling the other, and actually Chris has already passed. So could wrestle up here, which he does, which is a good option. Chris pulls guard again. Let's see. Boom, boom. We got 4 points of contact. He's going to hit to a double outside ashi here. Not the greatest position. I always tell people there's a hierarchy of position of the 9 positions in leg locks. And double outside ashi is not the best, although it's people who are good at it. And if you understand the position, its strengths and its weaknesses, because it certainly has weaknesses for back takes. You can utilize this position pretty well. So let's see what happens here. So he's a double outside ashi. Graham turns. He should right here. Graham should actually be doing a back step right here, bringing his leg over here. And if he's good, he can actually take the back from here, take Chris's back. But if he doesn't do a back step here, his knee line is out. So, and again, Chris does not have his toes trapped. So this is very important. He's just kind of controlling, holding onto the leg. Graham does a back step. And see the crossface is starting to happen. You can opt as soon as you do a back step like this, you can opt to go to a crossface here. Or you could actually, if he were to go to this shoulder and roll to his left shoulder over here, he could actually go to a rolling back take. So he successfully defended the leg lock. This is a clear case of one of the weaknesses of double outside ashi. It's just that you can get folded pretty easily, and as soon as that crossface hits you, it's going to be a battle to get out. So, but in this case, this is a clear case of the issue with double outside. One of the issues with double outside ashi. Okay, Chris is doing very good at keeping inside position. Graham's giving pressure on. He's trying to switch to a reverse knee on belly. This is good. He needs to establish some more connection here. Again, a leg entanglement starts to happen. I'm doing really good this so far, trying to hide his knee, but now things are starting to change. It appears that Chris is actually going to start to go for a toe hold, which could drastically change Graham's direction. Okay, he lost the toe hold. He's swimming back in. He's going to attack that leg again with the honey hole position on the same leg. Graham has to be very, very careful here, and it looks like he's going to get swept. He needs to use his right hand here to really push down, okay, towards Chris's head. And he's pressing forward. This is not a good option. In general, when somebody has a reaping position like this, especially a honey hole position with you standing, it is generally not advisable for you to drive forward towards the person because you're going to get swept. Because Chris could actually just take his head and spin under Graham here, and Graham would just flop over, and he would land in a honey hole position. So Chris did a good job of using that back leg, this foot, as a straight kick to trip. This is good. Okay, now this is trouble. So, and Graham can see that this is concerning. I always say as soon as you start to see this hand fighting here, you're in trouble. Whenever you see any kind of competition or anybody sparring and they're in a leg entanglement, and then you see a lot of hand fighting, like desperate hand fighting, this is usually the beginning of the end. You should already be trying to address the knee line or hide your heel prior to that. It's kind of a Hail Mary when you start fighting hands, and you can be successful in doing this to gain, free the knee line or to hide your heel, but it's risky, honestly, with somebody who's really good with heel hooks. Yeah, this is not going to go anywhere. He's just holding on. Okay, so here's a tap. That was good. All right, we're going again. Hand fighting. Gets Chris on his back. Okay, Chris doing good at getting connection. Look, it appears Graham was trying to do a knee slice, but he brought both his feet together. Again, this is as a general rule, we usually want to have our feet staggered so that they're not side by side. Generally, side by side feet, when you're trying to pass someone's guard, will end in a sweep because of both hands, as you can see, both hands here and this hand here have connected. He's going to get swept unless he turns his knees and radically changes his angle. Boom. So he gets swept, gets back up. I would have liked to see Chris really capitalize a little more on that sweep. I always tell a lot of my students, I tell them that, once you get the sweep, you should get on top. Like, this is your guard did it. Whatever guard you were playing, that's the purpose of it typically, is to get a sweep. Of course, there's, submissions and all that and leg entanglements. But really, a guard is one of the main things you do with your guard is get a sweep. So I would like to see him get on top there because there was some work that was done to get that sweep. So I like that he's 2-1. Okay. Again, he's going for that knee slice, but Chris's top leg over here is going to cause a knee shield. He wrestle up here. It'll be interesting to see what Chris does here. Okay, he just opts to go to kind of a half. Again, he's throwing that top leg into a reaping position. He's not the leg is not extended, but there are, if you're familiar with the false reap position, if Chris were to, take this hand and scoop the leg up between his legs, he could start to invert to get to again, a honey hole position. But this, I would say, is a little more advanced, but maybe he pulls it off. No, he just goes to butterfly. This is good. He's scooting into butterfly. Graham stands back up, trying for the inside position. I like that Graham here put the inside position here with the arm. This is good. Or you're generally always trying to fight for that position. That was a good pass. Simple. Now put a little smash. Again, Chris is doing a very good job of keeping inside position. Not letting his arms get outside his body. Going to turn. Go to turtle. Again, I always encourage people, it is much better to be in turtle than it actually is to be on your back, flat, on side control. There is some exceptions. There's a lot of good guys doing buggy chokes and all this stuff. And even arm bars and triangles, other triangles and arm bars you can pull from side control, and people that are very effective at it. But as positionally speaking, I would always tell people to get to turtle if you're flat on your back. Because one of the main reasons I always tell people this is because when you go to turtle, you already have space between you and the floor, and you can start to occupy that space by rolling or doing sit outs and things like that. That space cannot be occupied really by the top player. When you are in bottom side control, you're kind of stuck just playing inside position and the person's smashing you. So you really have to generate space between you and your partner, which is much more difficult. This seems obvious, but a lot of people generally don't like to go to turtle because they're giving up their back. There's a lot of strategies to defending the back and playing turtle positions. There's actually turtle guard. If you're not familiar with turtle guard, there's an actual guard you can actually play from there. So let's check it out here. Graham's good at controlling. He's got inside position. He switches, and right there from switching, that's where he lost it. We got butterfly with 2 underhooks. Let's see where this goes. He lifts. He needs to keep that chest-to-chest connection. He lost the chest-to-chest, but he switched, and Graham pulls out. Again, going to like a bit of a knee ride. Some hand fighting, trying to play some reverse de la Riva. Chris is trying to, okay, here we go. So this is good. Chris is beginning to play a little bit of reverse de la Riva. It's not quite reverse de la Riva since the right leg is actually extended. But, he's got his right hand on Graham's foot here. So this could lead to something. There we go. Again, the top leg is reaping over and sweeping again. So that's good. Right to a honey hole again. And right into a locked-in heel hook. So I think this is going to be the end of... Again, he goes right to hand fighting. Okay, he's doing good at hand fighting. He's getting control. He's trying to hold the head, not to get extension. That's it. Timing is everything with leg locks. Okay, so as soon as that leg were to reap over, Graham needs to react immediately. He must hide his heel. He must turn this heel right here to the ribs. His toes should be facing out, obviously, but hiding the heel is a very simple way to start to defend the leg lock. And then also or freeing the knee line. So as soon as that leg reaps over, he has to immediately react, because a lot of times it's just about timing, right? You're too late, a second late, then that's it. It's over. You got swept, caught the foot, and it's done. And even when you do it correct, it's you still get caught. So that was good. Another honey hole leg lock, heel hook. Okay, we're gonna go again. Looks like Chris is going to play top position now. Goes into a sweep or to grab the leg like a leg drag. Run around. Okay. One thing I don't like right here that Graham is actually doing with his guard, if you notice the difference between the two guards, Graham is not actually getting connection. His hands and his feet are kind of posting and flailing around, trying to follow Chris's movement. He would have a much better chance here with his guard if he would actually do 2-on-1s, grab the hands, grab the leg, wrap his feet around the legs, some sort of de la Rivas, reverse de la Rivas, shin on shin, these type of things. But he has to establish, or even butterfly hooks, he has to establish some form of connection, 4 points of connection. So again, you see how there's just like this post and he's kind of just trying to push the person away. This is no good for, especially somebody standing and trying to pass your guard. You must start to entangle the legs, and or get control of the upper body with the hands, 2-on-1s. But certainly with the legs, I generally like to get the leg entanglement. It's like de la Rivas, reverse de la Rivas, K guards, mantis guard, all these different guards you can play with person standing. You have to start, getting connection and then making them react. If you don't do that, you're going to end up kind of flailing around. And see, again, there's no connection. There was no connection at all. There was no there was no guard actually established. It was just very defensive. Then consequently, you just slid over into a top side knee bar. See if this pans out. It does. So again, this is a consequence of just not establishing a connection or even establishing a guard. It's just being very reactionary. And this is a very common thing we see even up, through white and even blue belts, is until you get to later stages of blue belt, you start to get a little more time under your belt. You start to quickly realize this, especially when you start to play your guards. This is case in point right here is thinking of your guard as a defensive position. If you notice, his arms were always framed out, always waiting for the person to come forward and fall forward. Graham actually should be going forward and should actually be making, again, connection. It's critical. All right, we're going to go again. Got a couple more minutes left. Talking about the knee line. So we'll see. Okay, so let's look at the difference in guards here. Okay, so he's 2-on-1s there. He got smacked in the eye. This is pretty funny. That's okay. So let's look at the difference in guards. See, you see his hands here. Chris is grabbing, grabbing. There's a hook right here, and this foot's getting ready to post. Boom. So now he has two hooks here, here, both his hands grabbing. I mean, this is not necessarily a guard per se. I would say this is kind of like a butterfly guard, but at least he has connection, and Graham is having to respond to this. This is radically different. Okay, see the 2-on-1. See how Graham rips back really hard. This is getting him to respond to what you're doing, and now he's playing. Now he's playing in a kind of a catch-up kind of game. So I would like to see one of the things you also see just real quick with whites and blues is they will address things directly, meaning that if Chris pulls on his arm here like you just saw, Graham is going to pull directly back, right? Now this makes sense, of course, in certain situations, but a lot of times, if you observe a lot of the black belts and even purples and browns that are higher level, you'll see that instead of pulling that arm back, you could actually just place it on the knee, right, or post it on the hip instead of pulling it directly back. So if somebody's pulling one direction, you pull directly back the other direction in equal force. This is generally not a good way to deal with those type of things. This is called addressing it directly, and there's another way, which is indirect addressing. So, but just wanted to point that out because you see it a lot. Okay, Cam did a good job on the hooks. Again, he has to be very careful that this outside leg right here. Chris really likes this setup, just to grab on the leg here, and that leg's wanting to thread. Graham is becoming wise to this because he's been caught in it a couple times. So he's trying to control that foot. The issue is that Chris can actually take this foot and swing it all the way around, right? So Graham's hand right here couldn't follow. It wouldn't be able to follow him in once Chris goes into a wide circular motion. Nothing in the world because there's a lot of space at that point between Chris's leg trying to reap over, and so he has a lot of distance to cover to actually capture Graham's leg. So we'd have plenty of time to defend it. But at least he's starting to address the feet here, and this is good. Okay, so he's just pushed the leg out of the way. This is great. He was ready for it. Good side control. Low base, good. Driving the shoulder in. I'd like to see him go a little bit more quarter side here, just because of watching them roll already. He should be more of a quarter side. So basically, quarter side is like halfway between north, south, and side control. So just consider it's more of an angle at an angle. All right, so like so it's different because Graham's legs will be really far away from Chris. Okay, again. Okay, so we just want to point out this real quick. Chris needs to be careful doing this with his hand here. I've seen people get hurt just by posting that hand like that. If Graham were to actually switch his hips really quick and drop his left hip, which is a reasonable thing to do in controlling this position, he could drop his hip to the left and kind of wrist lock Chris. So just be very careful when you're doing this. I always generally teach to keep instead of keeping your hand here, keeping your elbow on the hip. You won't get as much. I know why Chris is doing this. He's getting more distance here. And it's not so bad once the arm's framed out. I think you're okay. But a little bit risky. Just be aware of that. Good. I like that he went to reverse knee on belly. Again, the inside position, get the inside position back. And the power of the inside position. Yep. Okay. So now back to butterfly. Always fighting. See, Chris is always trying to fight to get these 2-on-1s. This is good. This is being active with your guard. This is what a blue belt should be doing. Nice. So that was actually a beautiful roll. Two, good blue belts. And and a good showing of just kind of like a leg entries, same side honey hole leg entries, and you can see how you can weave in and out of those positions. You can also see I can kind of wrestle up with those positions. There's a little bit of a demonstration there of technique and specifically for reaping the leg from guard into honey hole position, and then also some wrestling out from those positions. So all in all, a good roll. That was very good. I'll see if I'll get these guys to roll again or get them to film them again, rolling at different levels, just so we can see the differences. But yeah, good roll, and we'll do another one pretty soon. All right, thanks.